like to call this San Juan Economic Development Corporation meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. We're going to have a call of order and the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Roll call. Beginning over here.
On my side?
Yes, sir.
Senator Arjona?
Mayor Guajardo. Mayor Mario Garza. Mayor Pro Tem Marky Villegas.
Jesse Ramirez.
And that is, we're okay, we're good with that? Thank you. Before we move on for the record, Vice President Mando Garza is in attendance with us.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Director's report, go ahead, Mr. Luna.
Yes, good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, staff, committee members. I've got a few items on the director's report. The first one is we had the ribbon cutting yesterday at Morcito Corazon. It's a Mexican place. It's tacos and antojitos mexicanos. Very good place. If you haven't tried it, go over and try it. It's a very delicious place for you guys to try the tacos, tostadas, pretty much anything that has to do with Mexican food. Also, with you, I just passed out the ribbon cutting for the One Stop Studio, which will be taking place December the 12th at 5:30 p.m. It's over by 495 on that plaza, that 495 and Veterans. It's in that area. Nice place. We visited over, and I actually got to speak to the ladies. They were open to the December the 12th at 5:30. Also, we placed the ICSC Red River Dallas Conference again in there just for reminder that it'll be taking place January the 29th to the 31st. We have already set aside some rooms. We blocked them. Right? Yeah. So if in case you guys are making plans to attend, let us know so we can start getting the plane tickets or whatever needs to be done so that we can make the proper accommodations on that. The last one that I have is Home 2 Suites, the hotel update. I spoke to Mr. Patel last week in reference to maybe issuing out the CO. The inspections are already being completed. They needed the CO instead of a TCO, which we issue out at first. The CO is needed so that they can do the actual inspections from the Hilton hotels. And within maybe 30 days, according to Mr. Patel, it should be ready for the grand opening. I already speak to Mr. Patel about doing
In how long?
in about 30 days. So I want to say maybe in about now 3 weeks. So he's open to the idea of maybe doing a nice grand opening. That place showcase it. I did speak to him about the possibility of what I spoke in executive session. Then I'll discuss a little bit further. He is implementing some of those as he did it at the other place. But he's excited about the opportunity with them. And then I got 2 more items that I want to report to you guys, but those are in executive session. And that's what I got, members.
Okay. Any questions? Where's the board? Mr. Ramirez?
Nope.
Okay. Moving on, discussion possible action on the following matters.
So the first item, Mr. President, we have the downtown revitalization as one of the items we always have here on our agenda. We have Mr. Brian Godinez along with Mr. Villanueva here with us to give us a presentation on what was presented already. However, the consensus of the board was to hold off until we had a full board. So they're here to show the revitalization plan. Mr. Godinez.
Is there anything else you want to run before me?
I'm sorry?
Is there anything else you want to run ahead of me?
No, we're good.
You to do.
Yeah, not this time.
So I get to come on.
Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you.
We got 2 minutes.
For the record, I'm Brian Godinez with the ER Architect Principal, and joining me is Edgar Villanueva, who is Project Manager. And good evening, Mayor Pro Tem President Villegas and Mayor Garza, and fellow members, and Mr. Arjona. So what we're going to do, we have 3 presentations to do. Out of courtesy to some of the board members who could not be here at the last meeting about a month ago, we presented the final draft of the Downtown Revitalization Plan. Now, this is a summary of a 90-page document that was presented to Ms. Arjona about 6 weeks ago, and copies, I believe, were distributed. And we put together a slide deck. But before I get into the Downtown Revitalization Plan, which is the final component of all the work we've been doing for the last 3 years, I wanted to have Steve Walker do a presentation that's not related to the downtown revitalization plan. It's actually on your welcome sign that are on both sides of the intersection of Nebraska and the interstate. It's a project that he's been working with Mr. Arjona on, and he's going to make a presentation to give you an update of where it is and then see if he can get some direction from you all on next steps. So with that said, Steve, is your microphone on?
Yes, sir. I have it on. Yeah. Can you pick me up okay?
We can pick you up just fine. I'm going to change slides as you direct me to. I'll change each slide when you tell me you're ready. Can you see the slides?
I can see the slides and I'm ready.
Okay, go ahead and introduce yourself and formally and then take off, and I'll back you up on the slides.
Okay, a little bit on my background. I citizen there in the Rio Grande Valley, 30 years, and worked for TxDOT as the district landscape architect for the Texas Department of Transportation. Everybody in this room, I think, are familiar faces to me, and it's good to be back and work with the city of San Juan. I know that ERO's been doing some great things with the revitalization downtown, many of the several in historic buildings, so I'm excited to be in the realm of that and seeing it go on. Very exciting for the valley and the city of San Juan. But what you're looking at is typically a slide of some of the welcome to entry feature signs that's been developed and built in the Rio Grande Valley over the several years. You see them all over the state of Texas. This dates back to the late 1980s, where we actually did the one in the lower left-hand corner for the city of South Padre Island. I've got some fond stories about how all that occurred, but it found its way, and it has been an icon for the city of South Padre Island for years. And TxDOT's excited to have that in coordination with the city of South Padre Island. But other cities have stepped up and done a varied number of other types of entry features into the city. And so early on, working with the RO, Brian and I and city manager Ben and such, we started talking about the concept of doing that. And there was also a parallel project with the city of Alamo, and much the same thing. And I had some ideas about how to go back to existing retaining walls and go in and actually apply a signage that would be an entry feature. I've got an example of that. Normally this has been done during construction because of the complications and the engineering that goes on with these retaining walls that we see on typical overpasses on I-2. If you look at the one in the center at the bottom, that's for the city of Mission. Has the grapefruit, has the church on it, and again, it's something that's able to be accomplished during construction, because in dealing with these, I'm going to call them, it's an MSE retaining wall, a mechanically stabilized earth retaining wall. And the reason that we're choosing some of these areas for the city of San Juan is that typically, if you look at an intersection, to be able to do something on the ground like you see for Harlingen and Hidalgo, there's no real areas of real estate to pull this off on state rights of ways adjacent to any of the properties within the city limits of San Juan. So immediately I started looking at what were the possibilities of going back and attaching a sign to an existing MSE wall system that, again, for the city of San Juan, that boat sailed because no coordination was really established with TxDOT to do that on the existing construction that's going on. So the idea and the challenge was how to go back and make that happen. And working with the RO and Brian, we all looked at it, kicked it around, talking to Ben. It was something that we thought we could delve into and advance coordination with TxDOT, because these MSE wall systems are very complicated. They have hard points that hold these panels into place. They protrude back into the fill. And wherever these hard points are that allows these panels to suspend can't be compromised, because, again, you're compromising a structural environment within the state rights of ways. And I worked for TxDOT for so many years. I feel like, you always keep them involved. You get them. You try to get advanced information to them, because you don't want to run something up the flagpole with TxDOT that just won't fly. So in early coordination, this was over maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, we started talking to TxDOT with the city of San Juan and the city of Alamo what the possibilities of this would be. And not to take up a lot of time, Brian, if you want to go to the next slide, please, sir.
I will. Just for the record, Steve Walker has been with us since day one on the development work that we did on Nebraska Avenue. He was responsible for the streetscape, hardscape, landscaping content that we ultimately turned into schematics and to construction documents to have them shovel ready. Steve co-led that with Meldon Hunt and Kelly and she took all the civil side of it as well. So just so you'll know, he's been working with the city for quite some time.
Ryan, for me.
Yes.
I also
Yeah.
that Mr. Walker also did all the landscaping for the occupied trail as well.
Thank you.
Okay, good. I've always been a great admirer of the work that we've been able to do of the area and all the progress. So anyway, kind of getting back to the run here, knowing that Nebraska was the main corridor early on, Ben and Brian and I went out and actually drove and looked at it. Of course, it's still under construction. But the areas that have very high impact are the corners that you look at. The southwest corner, IH2 in Nebraska, which is FM 1426 for TxDOT, and also the northeast corner. As traffic approaches, if you're southbound, you see this on the left-hand side. If you're westbound, you see it on the left-hand side. So you get a little bit closer to it, and it spells out very well. If you're eastbound in the service road, you see it on the retaining wall. And then if you're northbound on Nebraska, you see it to the left on the retaining wall. So these are pretty predominant locations to try to pull this off. And if you look at similar projects that we've actually done, these are the two corners that we always look at because they tend to have the best presentation at this intersection. And again, you're coming into the city limits. It's the welcome to, it's the name and the logo that we're trying to sell and get that place of identity, kind of like a sense of place. Is what we're trying to pull off. And again, the two locations are here. If we go to the next slide, please. And these are pictures that are pretty current. You can see that there's still construction going on. These MSE walls are either built or they're being finished up, being built. So the challenge is, how do you go into these retaining walls and develop hard points that would hold up a sign that would be structurally sound and have the integrity that you'd want for the public to be able to view it in keeping with what's been done in the past. Not during construction, but an afterthought to come back and address it. If you go to the next slide, you'll see something in the plan view. I may add that early on, the city of San Juan and I had an agreement. We developed a set of plans. We brought that up to about 95%. We submitted it to TxDOT for review, and TxDOT was positive about being able to pull a project like this off. Bear in mind that this has not been done when the MSE walls are existing, so this is a new element for TxDOT to consider. So Pete Alvarez and all his staff work with us. Rex Costley, he's a deputy district engineer, and so they saw some possibilities that they could start to work with a consultant firm if we very carefully looked at these locations and how we would actually make that attachment. The landscape, the irrigation, all this is pretty easy and straightforward. That's something the district's done many times over. And so having those elements in a landscape design is well established. What's not established is a signage system that's attached to a wall, much like what we saw in the first slide. So this is one of the sheets in that 95% plan sheet that was developed. But again, this is not ready for prime time. We've still got a couple of tweaks to bring the plans up and be ready for a bid document by addressing some of the comments that TxDOT gave us. And so, Brian, if you go to the next slide, please. This is one of the sheets that identifies the city logo, the size, the proportions that would be next to a 10x5 panel sitting on one of the walls. Again, it's suspended from one of the walls in what I call hard points that allows it to stay in place. And initially, this was conceived to be a painted aluminum one surface city logo that would be bolted to that panel. But as time went by and we started to develop again with the city of Alamo the possibilities, we kind of changed directions to something that we thought would be more successful, something that would be vibrant in the daytime and also carry these colors very well at night. And we see these signage, at businesses, and so it kind of fell into a new concept of what the sign may be and look like. Next slide, please. Again, kind of giving an overall, the coordination with TxDOT, some of the items that would be necessary to pull it off. And I may add, the city of Alamo is currently under bid for this type of sign to be installed at the intersection of IH2 and their main corridor. So we're kind of breaking ground with the city of Alamo, but what we're doing is we're trying to trace this and get it in. Go back to the previous slide. I just want to run through this. Coordination with TxDOT by landscape permit.
There you go.
The city is to bid the project, and the city will pay 100% of the cost with TxDOT's oversight. No shared cost, no funding of any sorts from TxDOT. Now, EDC or MPO, something like that, could be a possibility. That would be up to the city in funding. The city to provide the maintenance for perpetuity for the landscape and for the signage itself. They'd pay 100% of the water costs for irrigation. They'd pay 100% of the lighting for the lighting of this element. If you go to the next slide, you'll see maybe what we're talking about, and you see these on buildings where they have a vinyl cover that's backlit with LED lighting, and it's very vibrant at night. So you can imagine in your mind's eye what this would be like on an MSC retaining wall. It wouldn't require ground lighting from the ground up to light a flat panel that was a painted aluminum sheet, but it would have a vibrant color that could be attached, and then you could have a solar cell on there and it'd come on at night and you'd see this light glowing. Again, I kind of got into some specifics about what the light what the structure would be made with and how it would be operated with the photo cell, and how that structure of the sign itself would be installed. I don't really get into the details of the installation of how it actually bolts to that. That's something that TxDOT would, again, in a package from the city of San Juan, have to review and approve. Again, we've done that for Alamo, so it'd be something the city of San Juan, if they wanted to continue with the concept, to be go ahead and allow me to finish up the final plan sheet, submit it to TxDOT, and go into a bid phase. Okay, the first phase of my obligation to the city of San Juan was just to get TxDOT to review it and to approve it. And so far, they've approved everything we've done except having a final set of plans. All right, next slide, please. Okay, here's where I kind of put myself out on a limb. I wanted to provide a cost estimate, but what we do know is that I've contacted a sign manufacturer that does have a current contract with the city, or current design proposal to the city of Alamo for 2 signs. Both signs, the value on those are right at $70,000. One of the things that came up during construction was, what's the life expectancy of these signs before UV goes into it? And according to this particular sign company, which is Leon Signs, we're looking at 15-year life expectancy, unless there's vandalism or anything like that. But as far as structurally, it should be able to be attached with any kind of weather conditions that we may have, especially in the valley, as well as just UV lighting on it, because it is a vinyl material. But 2 signs at $70,000 is what they've submitted. The installation of the 2 signs, I kind of threw a number in there for about $5,000 for each, like not for each, but $2,500 for one sign, $5,000 to cover that. The landscape, I have a pretty good handle on that. We're looking at about $27,000. Irrigation and the 2 locations, that's a little high on the irrigation, but let me explain why. TxDOT's requiring, if an irrigation goes in, you're going to have to bore underneath the service road, hook up power sources for the irrigation system. And then in addition to that, what TxDOT is expecting to see in the contract is a mechanism that can monitor the soil moisture below this MSC wall system. And you can't blame them for doing that, because if we irrigate to the point where it starts to compromise the subgrade to that structure, they could have some failure in that retaining wall. So as a simple part of what we could do to ensure that doesn't occur is put in a system that monitors soil moisture. And if the moisture is too high, it simply cuts itself off and doesn't irrigate. Again, an irrigation system on a project like this is something that we design it to establish the plant materials, but for the most part, we should be selecting plant materials that can survive and do well on the moisture that's already in the ground with what with what is provided by just natural rainfall. So the irrigation system to establish the area could be ran, and then you could cut it off in time. But if you wanted to keep the landscape very lush, you could throttle back on how many times you do irrigate, but you could keep it as lush as you could, by running it some. Total cost is about $120,000 for both projects, with the caveat that it's going to be bid out, and I'm not real sure, how much a contractor may add to do the 2 sign installations, or if anything would change in that. So, I'm saying about $120,000 for both projects, but I say that with a little bit of grit in my teeth. I'm not sure. And again, the 2 signs, that number is a pretty good pretty good cost, because we do have an existing proposal for the city of Alamo. All right. I'll be glad to field any questions if there's any at this time.
I have a question, Steve. So TxDOT, did you say TxDOT has to let this out, or would the city let this out?
No, TxDOT, that's a good question. Just to review that again, TxDOT will not let the project. They're asking the city to enter into an agreement with them for a landscape permit, okay? And that they will review the plan sheets, and they will monitor the installation of the sign as it gets placed onto the Yosemite wall system. But they will not be able to fund it, and they will not let it. They expect the city to let it.
Any questions?
What's the warranty of the signage?
Warranty on the signage, Steve?
That's a good question too. I brought that up with the city of Alamo, and Alex, the city manager, and I had a conversation concerning this. And, for example, Leon Signs, I called and talked to them, and they said, well, if we don't install it, then we're not real sure what kind of a warranty we can give you on the signage. But if they installed it, that would be, they could do it. But, I think their warranty for workmanship and performance is something like about 10 years. And but how they monitor that, I'm not real sure with the signs that they actually do have. But again, Leon Signs is not the only company in Texas that could provide the sign. It would be anticipated that a contractor would bid this out, and he would take the Leon sign information or equal, as it says in the contract, and he may go out and get bids from other vendors to actually do that, more local. And again, I've only dealt with one provider, so that warranty could change from provider to provider depending on how this is played out. Bear in mind again, we've not installed one like this. So even with the city of Alamo, we're breaking new ground, and the cost estimates that I've given should keep that in mind. We haven't done one to actually get a good field grade experience of what the process ends up with. So it'd be something that you'd want to probably talk to the sign manufacturer about individually. I think when the project is bid out, there should be some minimum expectations listed so the contractor knows what he's getting into.
Any other questions?
When we applied for the permit with TxDOT,
Mr. Walker, are we going to be tied to a specific plan? And I'm talking specifically about the landscaping and irrigation. Because I'd really like to take a look at that. That seems a little high.
Well, I mean, we could throttle that back, but bear in mind what we've done is, Brian, if you go back to, I guess, up where it shows a footprint of the landscape in this.
Do you want?
I can kind of.
I'm on the construction design sheet.
Yeah, there you go. You know, if you look at this very closely, it's a little hard to see, but there's a concrete border that separates the mow areas from the non-mow areas. So you've got that working as a separation between the plant bed and what's going on around the sign itself. The concept here is that it would have like not a real thick, heavy application of plant materials, but what's at immediately under the sign would be very low material that would never compete with the signage itself. And I got some sables on the side with, you know, a wild olive, but it kind of frames it on one side and allows the bridge to be open and frame it on the other. You know, that in itself is a pretty sparse landscape application, but we could definitely throttle that back. What I've got as far as the ground cover is like an aggregate, decomposed granite with a soil separator between them. I mean, you could in fact eliminate all the landscape and just have a sign if you wanted to. But I thought it'd be nice to do a landscape project underneath it. Of course, I am a landscape architect. That's what I'd say. But you know, and that's going in. And again, we're looking for beautification. TxDOT always is too. So it's kind of a package deal. But
eliminate.
I don't think.
Just scaling.
Yeah, I don't
back
think TxDOT would have a problem with changing the plans at all. That's what we need to figure out now if we're going to continue forward. And then give me comments, and I can make those changes for us and get a package we can send to TxDOT.
Steve, they're trying to make some comments to you. Can you hold back just a sec while they speak to you?
Oh yes, sir. Sorry.
No, it's okay. And Mr. Walker, I guess what I'm saying is I'm not suggesting eliminating, but rather just kind of scaling it back because just in landscaping alone, we're talking about around $45,000, which is a third of the entire budget. I would just, you know, if we could consider maybe minimalizing it a little bit, so that not only are we going to save, you know, with the initial investment of the landscaping, but also on the maintenance of it moving forward. And again, more as not only as a cost saving initially, but also, you know, in the long run for the maintenance. But if you could come up with something that's a little more scaled back or minimalized, I'd like to see that. I don't know about everyone else.
So Steve, in the spirit of that request, what's next?
Well, I do have an agreement to finalize construction documents for the city of San Juan, and it's been executed. So my question to the city of San Juan is: do you want to take that dive and go to the next step and have a final set of plans developed as a separate task for me to do? We do have the agreement executed. But I have not pulled the trigger and actually done it and turned it in because I'm still waiting to verify the city wants to go past the concept phase and the phase where we approach TxDOT, and TxDOT gave us the go-ahead.
Mr. Arjona, are we seeking a direction and action from the EDC or the city commission?
The EDC.
EDC, okay.
And we have enough leeway with the agenda item to take that action tonight.
So one of the things I was doing as he was giving the presentation, I was reaching out to our utility director because last week or the week before, we just got a call from TxDOT. They were actually moving on the landscaping, and the only thing they were asking from the city was a meter. So we said, let's go ahead and do that, a water meter, but at no cost. But I need to double check and make sure that this is the intersection that we were talking about.
Okay.
But as far as your question, yes, is to seek the direction on this.
So the EDC could take action to move forward to complete the construction drawings with your input and then proceed to TxDOT?
Right.
Okay.
Under this agenda item, downtown revitalization?
That's,
downtown?
Yeah, this is.
that was part of the initial.
Yeah, it was part of the original plan was to take a look at that corner as part of the downtown revitalization.
Whether it's with a full landscaping or minimal landscaping, but more important was the
landscaping would be worried about
shield.
down the road, can't we?
Well-
Or you already said that.
Well, you want to do the whole thing like a turnkey to save a little bit of money. But whether it's the full landscape, the way he's showing it, or maybe minimizing it, or maybe working on some of those monies. But I think one of the most important things is the actual shield, the one that's.
So we're asking for this board for direction as far as.
To proceed with the construction drawings and with the, I would call it the option to scale back the landscape and irrigation and see what that would look like from a cost standpoint, Steve.
And then also move forward to.
And move forward and go to TxDOT.
For the permit, yeah.
Yeah, for the permit.
Because I know that at one point we were given an estimated amount of 145, 150 per site.
Right.
So that was the whole turnkey, the landscaping, a nice welcome to the city of San Juan, whether it was a shield or maybe some sort of a monument. But this is what Mr. Steve Walker was recommending.
Yeah, he used the city of Alamo as a well, for lack of a better word, as a test before coming to San Juan to see what would be most applicable there to work because the conditions are the same. So that's what he in essence brought here. So what percentage of construction drawings are you at if you had to pick a percentage right now, Steve?
I'm at 95%. The reason I went on ahead and pushed at that point is I wanted to get TxDOT as much information
Right.
as I could.
So you could complete the drawings at 100% ready for TxDOT with the modifications to the landscape and irrigation to scale down.
Yes, sir, I could do that, but there is one sheet that we need to talk about, and that is the one sheet that covers the engineering aspect of the attachment of the sign to the wall.
Okay.
And let me just kind of run through that real quick. I have contacted a local engineer that TxDOT and this engineer works with on a regular basis. And there's a high degree of confidence that that engineer could seal it off and be able to cover that one sheet. I can't do that as a landscape architect. I do not do structural design.
Are you saying that that's going to be an additional service over and above your fee that was set by you and the EDC?
There's a possibility, but for the city of Alamo, that fee was waived by this engineer that, and I'll mention his name. It's Raza Badio Zamani. He's with B2Z Engineering, and he worked with the city of Alamo just to work with the city to get the project launched.
So the city couldn't bring engineering.
And the reason is that Raza works with the city of Alamo on a regular basis, so this is something he could do to help them out. I can't speak for Raza.
But Ben's going to give you a suggestion, Steve. He's about to say something to you.
So I just got off the phone with Juan Carlos, our utilities director. He did say that the city does have like about a $70,000 allowance on landscaping. So we're setting up a meeting with them. Hopefully maybe Mr. Steve Walker yourself can join us on that. So that the landscaping is going to be in front of the Whataburger side, on the HEB side, and also on the Nebraska side as well. So we're looking at those two intersections that there's going to be some landscaping work on.
Do you have an engineer on call that could help him on the electrical side that he's talking about?
Yeah, we have somebody in rotation that can help us.
Steve, if the city could provide you with that electrical engineer to get that sheet done, would that be all right?
Okay, this is not electrical engineer. This
What
is
is
a
it?
structural engineer.
Oh, structural. I'm sorry, structural.
It's
Structural, yeah.
Yeah, they're in rotation. They said they could provide that for you.
Okay,
So
and
you can
again,
give us drawings.
the sheet that we worked for Alamo and developed with TxDOT's approval, I could submit that to the city, and the city could take that and approach a structural engineer that would be able to sign off on that sheet.
Ben's nodding his
for
head yes,
TxDOT.
Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, for TxDOT's purposes to be able to move forward.
Okay, well, Ben's nodding his head yes that he can do that.
I'm assuming they have a few plans, and that's what the meeting is going to be about.
Right.
For us to select a few plans.
Okay.
We can bring it before the board to see what you all decide. And
So we seek permission to proceed and complete 100% set so we can go to TxDOT for letting when y'all are ready.
and this is just an estimated cost. Like I said, there's a $70,000 allowance already
Yes, sir.
given to the city, so it may be less on the landscaping side.
This is to proceed, correct?
To go to the next step.
Any questions?
How long does TxDOT take to approve some kind of this?
Did you hear the question, Steve? How long does TxDOT take to approve something like this?
Yes, sir. It's TxDOT. They have a small rudder and a large ship, so they turn, but not real fast, right?
What's your best guess?
it seemed like that TxDOT didn't have much of a problem with Alamo, because of that, I think it'd go pretty fast. But what it would take is for probably Ben to give Rex a call and say, hey, this is coming. I'm working with, the following to get this to you, be ready for it. And I would imagine they could cover something like that, maybe in 20 days or less, if they had that to look at, to move forward with. But again, they really need to have the full packet, the full meal deal, to be able to see exactly what we're doing. And I can have that done probably within 10 days myself and have something back to the city.
Okay.
Again, it's just courtesy. I'm not trying to jump the gun on the city and do something without authorization.
Correct.
Okay. Anything else?
As far as this is,
Comments?
We need to take action to authorize.
Yes, well, I guess what we can do is take action after his presentation, unless you want to do it separately.
I would recommend separately,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
Yeah, because it's got to go separate to TxDOT.
Yeah.
So if everybody's ready, I think I can make a motion that we authorize Mr. Steve Walker to go ahead and finalize construction plans and move forward with the application to TxDOT to do this work.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
All right, Steve, thank you. Can you stick around for the next presentation?
I will. I'll stick around, but let me be clear. The concept of the vinyl sign with the lid, like we saw, like La Quinta, that's good to go. Everybody's agreeable?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
they are. They're nodding their head yes.
Yes, sir. Okay, I'll stand by then.
All right, we'll put up the next presentation, and then Taylor, Greg, and Oscar be standing by. I'll formally introduce you all. We'll put the other one full screen. Will I be able to change if it's in full screen mode?
I have the computer from the same time.
Okay. Well, while he's doing that, so I was here about a month ago and presented to the board, and one of the board members suggested wisely that I come back and do the presentation again for the new board members. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to condense a 90-page document into about 15 to 16 slides. And then I've got another presentation after that where I'm going to present the latest renders for the conference center that you all haven't seen, and I presented some of those at the last meeting as well. So if this is ready, I'm going to go ahead and proceed. So I'm here on behalf of a team of planners that were involved in this project. A lot of what you're going to see was presented to the public and to the board during various phases of this planning effort. So joining me, along with Edgar, are three members of the Broadus planning team. I've got Greg Hughes, I've got Taylor Winberg, and Oscar Garcia, who are on teams. Their microphones are on, and if there's any questions that I might not be able to answer, they'll be able to answer them as I go through it. I'm going to go pretty quickly through this presentation and give you the highlights of what we did. So with that said, I'll begin. So about 3 years ago, when we were hired to develop a downtown revitalization plan, the first thing we did was determine what you had. And you had an old plan that was done about 12 years ago, and then another one that was done about 7 years ago. And so we looked at that, and what we determined was that in order for the downtown to thrive, it was best that we get all the visitors, specifically over 1.5 million that come to the Basilica, along with the museum and all the dealerships and everything that's up north on the interstate. And what is it that we needed to do to bring them down here and start spending money in the downtown area? So we developed a vision, and we thought that the first thing needed to be done was to revitalize the avenue itself, to be able to bring traffic down into the downtown area. And the first catalyst project that was in development at the time was your city hall, your new city hall. It was still in early design at the time before it went into construction. So we focused on a preliminary vision, and from that, we took all of your existing plans that you had, we had 9 of them, and we brought them and modernized them and brought them up to their current states that they're in when we submitted them about a year ago. Your land development plan, your transportation plan, your zoning plan, several of your plans. We brought them up to and brought them from 2009 to 2023 and 2024. The next thing we did was decided to do the Nebraska Avenue revitalization with landscape, streetscape, hardscape, adding a median and beautifying the entire downtown area. You have seen the visual renders that we've done for that beginning with the Genesis we called from 9th Street to Business 83, which is owned by the city. And then we also started working on the TxDOT portion, had several meetings with TxDOT to see what we could do on the beautification to duplicate what we had on the city Genesis side on the TxDOT portion from the interstate to Business 83. We believe that in order to apply for grants and for external funding, shovel-ready work was required. So we created construction documents for the Genesis portion of Nebraska, and TxDOT wanted shovel-ready work, which we call them schematic sets for the TxDOT portion. What was remaining was now, what are we going to do vertically? What completes the vision for the downtown revitalization? That's what you have in front of you that we're going to show you today. We've done a lot of work that we're proud of, and we have succinctly worked through a process with the leadership, the community, and staff to get where we are today with our planners. So I want to acknowledge those that were involved. This is the existing Economic Development Corporation Board. I do want to note that the City Commission was involved, the former EDC board members led by Mr. Guajardo and others were involved. Along with the EDC staff, with Ben and Martha, Monica, and Efrain, and then the consultants. There were many, many people. We established planning goals, and we determined that what would drive the downtown revitalization was to have a good set of design guidelines, to focus on how we were going to improve parking and infrastructure, the creation of policies and programs, to be able to create more walkable, pedestrian-friendly streets, along with what we would do with the businesses that exist and the new businesses that would come, how we would focus on arts and cultural, and then the creation of catalyst sites like the City Hall, a core area of the downtown that would be the center of a thriving economic future for the downtown area. You'll see 3 that we identify, and then immediate actions, which I'll review towards the end. And from that, we had corresponding goals. We established that we needed to invest in local businesses. We need to bring those dollars that are leaving the northern area into downtown, link the Basilica into the downtown area, attract future residents, spur economic activity in the downtown area, improve pedestrian experience with more walkable spaces and areas. And then also, you currently have 559 parking spaces in the downtown area. We need to right-size that to be able to accommodate more parking, better mobility, and the fact that more businesses will be here, we're going to need more parking. So we addressed all that in this report. So the opportunities by land use and infrastructure, it was determined, you can see the study area that goes all the way north and south and east and west from the interstate to Business 83 and up the corridor of Nebraska up to the Laurel Longoria area, which, as you know, is going to be currently expanded by TxDOT, which complements beautifully what we're talking about doing with Nebraska. New retail restaurants, shared and designated parking, open space park designation, mixed-use multifamily housing, wayfinding signage, landscaping improvements, sidewalk improvements, alley designation improvements, adding sufficient dark sky compliant lighting, and designated bike lanes. In your shovel-ready documents that we did for Nebraska Avenue, for the TxDOT portion of Nebraska and for Genesis, we cover a lot of this, and they have been articulately detailed and have been established in your construction drawings and your schematic drawings.
Genesis mixes in with it.
That's exactly right. It's already been done. And so this downtown plan actually built from all of that visioning and work that we did on that main corridor on Nebraska on both sides of Business 83, north and south. So we went to the public and we surveyed the community. We got 150 responses back. And from those 150 responses back, we asked them what was most important for downtown. You can see the different words that they use for the downtown area in terms of, and it's very negative. A lot of there's negative words that are up there. But what they were looking for, what the public wanted, was more dining, more shopping, and more everyday shops. Those were the top three. And then from there, it went into music venues and nightlife, community centers, etc. Out of the 150 responses that we received from the mail. And then we had 4 public meetings at the San Juan Memorial Library, one on May 2nd for public, one for the businesses in Nebraska on the 3rd, and then we did a follow-up on June 26th and June 27th with the public and the businesses, and got a lot of feedback from that. Their input is at the core of what we developed with this plan. So first, let me introduce you to the TxDOT area and the potential for development and growth. The primary focus, you'll see 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I don't know if you can see it from here, but what's in pink is the commercial mixed-use development opportunities that exist on Nebraska. Starting from the Basilica, we determined that we would want to create a commercial retail corridor from the Basilica to Nebraska, heading south towards downtown. That pink area that's next to the museum is an ideal location for commercial development in that pink side on the east side of Nebraska. As you head down towards Business 83, near the railroad area and along Business 83, you'll see some yellow areas there that we highlighted that would be ideal for single-family growth, areas that we thought could be close to downtown and help spur some of the economic activity in the downtown area. So this is the first portion of the opportunities that exist on this TxDOT. Now in Genesis, it gets much more active with much more opportunities. Because this is where the heart of the city is, where the city hall is, and other areas. So what you see in pink are all commercial opportunities, where you see the depot north of Business 83, along that area, and then around City Hall. The blue area represents the municipal spaces. You see City Hall right there on the corner of 6th and Nebraska, and then all those are commercial retail opportunities that exist around there. And then the green spaces represent green and park areas, and the orange are multifamily and the yellow are single family. And then you see how all the corridors mix and they all connect there, and then you see parking opportunities that are scattered throughout there. This is the Genesis Downtown Opportunity Area. This is one of the catalyst site scenarios. This is the mixed-use development scenario that we projected on the corner of Business 83, or the intersection of Business 83 and Nebraska, and looking at creating a dynamic downtown environment in this corner where we think a lot of commercial retail opportunities exist for the downtown areas. You can see there's about almost a dozen space and retail and commercial opportunities in land right there in that particular corner. We did a render of what this could look like, and this is something looking towards the Business 83, the depot, the rail. This is what potentially could look like on that area there as one catalyst site with condominiums and retail and housing. The second catalyst site is right across the street from the City Hall, where we designate as a cultural hub with parks and arts areas and commercial spaces to serve the community, where 6th Street could be closed off for street festivals and art events, a park designated there on the corner of 6th and Lincoln, and then designate above about half of Lincoln towards Business 83 would be an area there for shops and street level retail outlets for seating and walking around that space is right there. This is what that could look like around that corner of Lincoln and 6th Street, where that park could be designated. And then the Lincoln Street activation, we wanted to highlight the fact that it was important that we only block off half of Lincoln, and then north, heading towards Business 83, is to leave the area there for the existing mechanic shop to be open to vehicular traffic, but the rest of it would be dedicated for pedestrian-only activity and events, patio-like seating, or stalls for weekend markets. This is the third catalyst site scenario. And then lastly, we determined that sustainable and smart infrastructure around the downtown area, implementing practices that can attract eco-conscious businesses and residents, could include green building standards, smart technologies, public transit, and mobility measures around the downtown area. These are the catalyst sites that we identified in the plan. Now, I'm showing you some very quick information, but there is an extremely good detailed amount of planning, strategy, and actions, and even schedules in terms of how all this could roll out for the downtown area. These are the core strategies that we identified as most important in terms of moving forward. Parking, increased parking as development increases. I mentioned 559 spaces now, but as development increases, that demand is going to increase as well. In the plan, we articulate a very detailed strategy on how to build your parking and right-size your parking infrastructure. Traffic, and we detail in the plan how to provide for better mobility as more traffic flow demand increases, and where those best spots are to be able to do that outside of Nebraska, along the other corridors around the downtown area. The creation of more regulatory tools for creating pedestrian experience walkability in the downtown area, and what regulatory ordinances that you may have to create also with your business facades, and being able to come up with more attractive business fronts and storefronts along Nebraska. We also highlight in detail developer programs that you can create, TERSs, municipal management districts, public infrastructure districts, SBA support resources, as well as grant resources that could be available for developer programs. Placemaking, the creation of more downtown events, live events, annual events, quarterly events, the possibility of the creation of a museum, and more branding of the city. Much like you all are doing with your July 4th events, your holiday events, is to continue to have those kind of placemaking events that, as Steve mentioned, even the corner of Nebraska and the interstate becomes a placemaking branding signage right there for welcoming people. We go into detail on how to attract investors and create strategies for retailers, developers, and hospitality and mixed-use developers and investors. And then there's quite a bit about how to deploy short, mid, and long-term strategies and prioritizing projects that are important to the development of the downtown over 3 years, 7 years, and 10 years. And then the beginning of the immediate actions and next steps and the schedule for that. And this is what we recommend that you would do immediately, like within a year. One thing is to showcase this well thought out approach, this document on the vision for the downtown revitalization and the investments the city's already made, like the City Hall, and we'll talk about the conference center here in just a minute, and has made to retail and development community, is to going out and letting developers, investors, retail, mixed-use developers know about a vision that you have articulated and thought out, and let them know what your plans are for the city for the next 10 or 20 years. Continue with the Nebraska Avenue revitalization with TxDOT. Update your market feasibility and retail analysis that you have currently, and update it to find out exactly what leakage exists in the city, what other opportunities exist for retail attraction, both along the interstate and downtown. Focus on the key strategies and actions that we mentioned earlier. Focus on placemaking, continue building major city events, more branding, develop a community events calendar so that people can access and know exactly what's coming up with the city, and they know where to find it and what's happening. Initiate the recommended policy changes for making more walkability opportunities in the downtown area, along with the business facades and storefronts, and develop downtown business grants to assist on those storefronts and the existing businesses you have there. So this is what the immediate actions are, and again, they're highly detailed and articulated in the plan. So that is the plan, and that's where we're at. And what we're hoping, and we asked at the last meeting, is for adoption of the plan. It's your plan, it's done, we're finished. We've gotten all the input and sought everything that we can from the community, from the leadership and staff. So before I get into the conference center and show you the latest renders that we've done and the thinking that we've done on the conference center, I'll stop now to see if there's any questions. Any comments, anything that you might want to...
How far along time-wise, more or less, for Genesis?
Genesis construction documents, you're ready for letting.
Okay.
If you find $4.5 million, it's ready to be done, that 5-block area.
The whole thing that we needed to get everything done prior to that, for correct? So we can show those renderings. Genesis.
They're ready.
Go in line with TxDOT.
Yes.
It helps us
They've
out.
been approved.
Okay.
The word's not approved. They've been reviewed by TxDOT,
And
and they
okay.
align with what we planned for the TxDOT portion.
And we needed to do that, just for the record. We needed to do that.
Yes, sir.
to get to where we need to
You
get?
have a full set of permit-ready plans ready to be leaded by either you all or TxDOT to do the improvements that we saw visually on the renders and the
Correct.
animation we did for you. We have a $4.5 million cost estimate that we've addressed and looked at, and we have it in detail. And I think it's now a question of going to the MPO, looking to see what kind of carbon emissions grants might be available. John Pack Grants has already put some grants out, and he wanted those that shovel-ready work to be able to say that, utilize that. So he's already in motion for that, to try to raise the money for that. The TxDOT portion is budgeted at $3.5 million. And I believe we're in the early stages of an advanced funding agreement for that. I believe that TxDOT has already made a commitment in terms of what they're willing to do and what you all would be willing to do. They've reviewed the documents. We haven't had any kind of pushback that said, no, don't do this, don't do this. It seems like everything's in line. Everything's positive with TxDOT. Now, those are in schematics. We're just waiting to go to construction drawings, but the schematics are like 60% construction drawings. It would probably take 2 months and they'd be ready for to be let.
Any questions, guys? Comments? Josiah? Okay.
I think one of the biggest things is we just, when you start, because you said scheduling and things need to get, scheduled and follow a program. We need to put that in line with action items before the EDC and before the city, because I'm sure it's going to require.
That's well said. Actually, you need a quarterback. You need a quarterback who focuses on this project.
Yeah,
to
it makes
fulfill on
sense
it.
for us to come back and decide.
Yeah.
On
That's a decision you all have to make.
which would be a better avenue, depending.
Mm-hmm. I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm going to give kudos to Taylor and Greg and Oscar with Broadus along with Dunaway. I've never seen such an impressive document in terms of the detail laid out in terms of strategies, actions, and timelines. This is a well thought out, well done book, and kudos to that team for what they did on the heavy lifting on this program, for the plan that they did. Taylor, Greg, Oscar, is there anything you want to say? I neglected to see if there's anything you may want to add to my presentation that I did.
I thought it was outstanding. You were very thorough. I do not have anything to add. Taylor, you might have something?
Nothing for me. I think you covered it all, Brian. Thanks so much.
We're happy you up.
Oscar, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I think if, the next piece more than anything else is really implementation. And if there's guidance and the like, we're here local. We can always assist with that and helping you guys take it from plan to fully execution. And that's really in the details of the document, but that's what we're here for. So as you guys push forward with this, we're still the resource. So
you trusted us to deliver in this document. It's done. There's no financial obligation to y'all to adopt it, but it's ready for adoption by the board.
Well, in going with my comment earlier about needing to align action items, I think the first step is adopting and we got it a couple of weeks ago, and I went over it then and then earlier this week. I think it's this is my second downtown revitalization tool that I've reviewed. So we tried this 9 years ago as well. And the problem then, which is still a problem now, is funding. But I think we're in a much better position. We have a much better document tool
to use
at this point. And I think we're poised to be able to, move to the next step and find that funding. And the first step would be to approve it and adopt the plan that we have before us. And then I also agree with Brian that we do need to have someone who's going to be laser focused on this, quarterbacking this, because every step is going to require multiple action items, again, by both this board and our city commission as well.
Yes, sir. City meeting. Also, I guess we can come back and to decide how we're gonna maneuver this, EDC, city, vote, or, basically, as far as adoption, I think that I agree with you. I think we need to be.
We'd love for you to make a motion for adoption.
Well, that's the first step that we need to. That's the next step, correct? There's no financial obligation.
No.
So we're good there. And then come back and amongst us figure out what we're EDC or city. Do we need an adoption for the city as well?
No, we were contracted by the EDC.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just adopted by the EDC. I will tell you that we are available to help you go to the next step. We can assist in organizing what those next steps would be. We're not going anywhere, Marky. We're here.
We're good. Is everybody good with that?
So it would be adoption and then start looking at phases or how to get funding. And eventually it'll be in phases, done in phases, right?
I would suggest that you get a meeting with John Pankratz and Hollis and have them react to this document and see what their strategies are for grant seeking. That's one. There's many other funding opportunities besides what John's doing. There's others that you can do.
Once it's adopted, maybe we can put a big push on it.
This is a big step. You adopting this is a big step.
Correct.
You're pretty much saying this is your vision for the downtown.
So getting that to them to get moving wouldn't be a hard thing.
No.
See, because that will give you the plan, and then now you know what you're going to go look for.
Right.
Okay.
And there's a whole section on grant sourcing in this book. Multiple grants opportunities that exist for y'all to what you go seek. And funding. It's well articulated.
Anything else from the board? Solona?
No, we're good. This is the, like you said, this is the initial part of the whole project, so that we can have it like shovel ready, as we say, so that people can actually go out and seek for funding.
Okay. Just make a motion.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt our downtown revitalization plan.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passed unanimously.
My heart glows. There's been a lot of good hard work with all of us on this. Thank you. Let me take you to this. I want to update you on the preliminary design work that we've done on the conference center. So I want to show you what I showed the board last time, and I think it's good that you all get to see this as well. So as you know, the San Juan Hotel exists where it exists. This is an old Google Earth aerial. This is while the City Hall was under construction. It's the only aerial that I could find, unless we take a drone and go up there and take a look at it. But everybody knows what it looks like. Everybody knows what the hotel looks like. And then these are some of the interior elements. I want you to focus on that. Edgar, can you come up?
Yeah.
I always forget what to call that little piece up at the top of the hotel. What? Pediment, yes. Just stay focused on that pediment for a minute. But even though there's a lot of negative, ugly pictures here, what our design team did was take a look at what's the best of the hotel in terms of some of the elements that are here visually that we wanted to bring into the conference center. And so you'll see some tile elements, you'll see some brick elements and things like that. I just wanted you to see that this is what we saw when we did several tours of the building. And so what we wanted to do is, if we heard the preservationists, we've been at every meeting that they've been, and we wanted to honor the legacy of the hotel while introducing a new city catalyst, a new economic opportunity for the downtown area that was beyond just a hotel. And so this is an area view of the City Hall now with the proposed downtown conference center where the hotel existed and with the potential of parking. About how many spaces we're looking at?
Well, 75.
75 additional spaces in that area right there, along with how many exist in the City Hall?
We have about 50.
About 50 there in the City Hall. And so the aerial then goes into our floor plan layout. And this is, the hotel has about 14,000 square feet. This proposed conference center now expands to 26,000 square feet, 2 stories. And what we did is Ben asked if we could look at creating leasable office space upstairs and downstairs. And where the main entrance is right off of Business 83 in the lobby.
83 is
heading
up
north.
on top, right?
Yeah, up there. This is Business 83 up here where it says San Juan Conference Center. That's Business 83. And then create a multi-purpose events room with a kitchen area, conference area, so that it can also serve as the city commission chambers when you all have meetings or any other city advisory or other types of meetings as well. So you have the first floor, and then you have the second floor. So now we've jumped from 14,000 square feet of the hotel space now to 26,000 square feet of available space for this for the conference center. This is the grand entrance coming off of Business 83 into the main lobby. You can see the stairs that go up to the second floor. Obviously, there's an elevator to go up to the second floor. And then you move into the grand events area ballroom. This is what it would look like if we didn't have any tables in the center and we wanted to have a dance floor area and then a stage towards the back end on the west side of the building. Now, I'm going to mention that, Edgar, can you come up to the microphone?
Yeah.
Talk about the seating configurations of how many from how many to how many.
So right here in a event-like party, we can sit about 300 people. And if we cover the center area with tables and chairs, we're looking closer to 600 people.
Ben also asked that we would have a partition that could partition the room in half if we needed to, and create, as we said, a multi-purpose environment for the room, to cut off the room if we needed to have two events simultaneously, or just needed to only reserve just one half of the room. Now, these are not final, by the way. This is just preliminary conceptual renders. We would not go into any kind of final without you all having reviews as we go into schematics and construction drawings, et cetera, et cetera. This is just our first pass. But this is what the room would look like if you had a city commission meeting. And then the stage would convert into the dais with the commission and support staff up there. And then behind that wall is...
We have the executive conference room and a additional storage to put all the dais and the chairs away for an event.
This building does not have any full kitchen use or ability because it's expensive. So we created warming areas. There's a warming area in the conference area in the back behind, and then for catering, and then there's a warming area near the front for catering as well, for big events. So this is from a side angle view. Now, what we wanted to do is we wanted to have the front of the building replicate and look like as much as we could of the existing San Juan Hotel. And I wanted to remind you about that pediment up at the corner. So one of the things that we thought was, okay, well, what about a museum? The preservationists that have been to the meetings have said, well, what about a museum that honors the city of San Juan and the hotel? So there's space and room for a potential museum. And so we're just going to give you 3 different angle views of what that museum space could look like that could create, attract, bring people another more of placemaking, to be able to honor the city, honor the hotel, and preserve the history of the past and then of going forward. And so we thought that this space would be perfect and there would be a great area for the ability to do this. This is up on the second floor, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So the second floor would be part of this, along with 4 office spaces up there. Now remember, there's how many offices?
We have 8.
8 offices that generate revenue for lease for businesses in the building. And you have revenue generation for the event center as well, besides what the city may want to do with it. So this is the exterior. We wanted to look as much as possible of preserving the past with the hotel, but give it a more modern look for the conference center. You can see the original pediment that we preserved at the very corner. You'll see it a little bit close up here in just a minute.
There.
But you can see it up there at the top. We hope that the community will like this and accept this. This is what this looks like at about maybe 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening as the sun's starting to set. And then at night, this is what it could look like as it's getting a little bit darker. This is the cost for the new building at $300 a square foot for 26,000 square feet at $7.8 million. This is what we anticipate after talking to our structural and our facilities conditions assessment team, what it would cost for the 14,000 square foot preservation of the hotel at $500 per square foot at $7 million.
What is the projected timeframe if you were to start?
Yeah, it would be about 6 months for construction drawings, and then probably about, what, 12? A year for construction.
About a year and a half total?
Yeah, about a year and a half total.
Well, Mother Nature had another maybe
but if
2 months.
But if you gave us the word to start tomorrow, a year and a half from now, while we do that, we would be doing demolition and then the abatement for lead and asbestos and all that. That goes on while we're going through the construction drawings. We're ready to go into construction drawings. This preliminary design exercise we've done, we could probably move more like 4 months into construction drawings. We think that the demo would take about how long?
That'll take about a month.
About a month. And we include the abatement?
Yeah, include the abatement.
Okay. But we wanted you to see the cost difference and on that. So that's it.
So would the cost fluctuate if we were to wait longer, obviously?
It might. We're projecting about a year out on your costs.
Oh, okay.
And the good thing is that the market's stabilized. The construction market is now more predictable. It's got, it used to be 12% of escalation.
Too much of it.
Now it's less than 2%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Even maybe closer to 1% a month now.
Got it.
Yeah. Now it's higher than it used to be. You might have been able to do a building like this for maybe $2.25, $2.50, about 3 or 4 years ago before the pandemic. So we're estimating about the cost that we estimated.
So is that the going rate, $300?
We think so. This building doesn't have much complexity to it.
Okay.
And how much were you estimating for the demolition?
I forgot, what was the cost of that?
I don't think we got a cost, but typically, anywhere $100,000 to
Yeah, I think we were anticipating about $175 tops. We just don't know about the abatement portion yet.
Yeah.
We don't know what the lead and asbestos and all that will look like. But
So
we
you
don't think
do
it's going to be more than 50.
environmental assessment.
Anyway, we wanted to preview this to you, and we would like to take this presentation to the City Commission, and we'd also like to let the public see it. We think the public should see this,
Right.
and let the public say what the public wants to say.
Sorry to interrupt, but that was one of the recommendations that I had made in one of the city meetings. If we could have a workshop so that we can have the public.
Absolutely.
I don't know when you're available, if you want to schedule something.
Whenever. We'll work with Mr. Arjona, and we'll set that workshop up and let the community respond to this. We've worked very hard. We think we've reached a balance. We hope the public will.
Well, we really want our public to see this, and then from there,
We are ready when you're asked us to come out. We'll be ready for a workshop.
Those offices, how big were they?
About a standard 1,200 square feet.
200.
Yeah, I'll take you to the floor plans just so you can see it.
So there's just a presentation.
Yes.
Brian, on the second floor, we're just talking about that museum feature and 4 offices.
Museum and 4 offices, yeah.
So
Museum for the hotel, museum for the city.
And I was, because here I can see, it's hard to visualize, but so that big X there is just the ceiling to the ballroom area.
The height of the ballroom.
I was looking at the bottom floors, they have entrance in the front, right? So that means the stairs or the elevator would be for the top. But during the day, they would to occupy all 8. There would be something to lock the conference,
Yeah, we'll have to definitely.
Yeah, their door's right there where you lock the conference center portion.
Oh, okay.
And Brian, can you all
You want to go over there?
go a little bit more in depth on this
Go ahead,
area?
Edgar.
That's
Edgar's the one that designed this.
On this area?
yes.
Okay, so this would actually be the
Stage.
stage and diet. We have a storage for
Table and chair.
table and chairs. We have a concession with a kitchen in the back. We have our services, which is mechanical, electrical. We're gonna put the executive conference center.
Kind of like for closed session.
Pretty much, and then just privacy through it. We're doing additional storage for the remaining tables and chairs, and then these are just like emergency supports.
Taylor, Greg, and Oscar, and Steve, if you're still here, you're welcome to leave. This is a different portion of our presentation. I didn't know, I can't see you, so I didn't know if you were still here or not.
We're still here, but I will just say thank you for adopting the plan. I'm looking forward to see it develop.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Any other
Thank
questions?
you.
We're good.
Yeah, Brian, I'll go ahead and get off, but if there's any questions or follow-ups, just get in touch.
Thank
with
you,
me,
Steve. I'm
please.
sure you'll hear from Ben.
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you very much. Very much needed. I know we're catching up. Some of us were.
Now, I will add that there's a rather extensive detail part of our presentation that talks about the facility conditions of the San Juan Hotel made by our team of experts. And if you want us to present that, it's an option that we could do at the workshop. And it's quite detailed.
It's going to be needed. If we have any time of workshop, we're going to have to.
We have, there's probably about 20 slides about that.
But that's about
The condition of the hotel.
how it exists.
Yeah, and the
I think that's
recommendations by our
important so the public can see really why we're taking the different directions of demolishing, because we don't know all the details, and once we know the details and how expensive it is to keep it up, I think so that's good information.
Yes, and actually, we found a report that was done in 2009 by our company and Terracon that actually did a facilities condition assessment of that building in 2009. 2009, yes. Before it was purchased by the attorney.
Mr. Acevedo.
Yes, and then our team came in and we did our assessment about, how many months ago? About 6 months ago. Then we brought our team in to do another assessment. That's what you'll be hearing at the workshop.
And what I can tell you about that was done because at the time, Mr. Acevedo was considering, doing a bed and breakfast type situation, and the EDC was looking at potential, abatements and incentives. And at that time, once we did the study, one of the things that became very clear is that the remediation was very cost prohibitive for a private entity, and it was at that time extremely cost prohibitive for the city to take on that.
It's in that report. Yeah, and it's amazing, that's 15 years ago, so the condition of the building just got worse and worse and worse over the course of 15 years.
We compared to, because at that time we also did the same kind of study with the hospital. And at that point, we also made the decision that it's just, because we had thought about making the old hospital building, which is where we're at right now, turning it into like an EDC business incubator, but the cost to do that was insane. I think remediation alone of that building was going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000, just the remediation. And then we had to go back in and dump in another $2 to $3 million to get it operational.
At that time.
15 years ago.
Yeah.
Glad he did, because look what we have now.
And Roy Rodriguez owned it before me as a Mr. Acevedo, and he had trouble finding funding at that point.
Yeah.
And it just got worse.
Well, we're going to bring two qualified structural engineers. They're going to be discussing that portion of the presentation.
Get that set up with Mr. Juan.
We'll be ready. You let us know when you're ready.
Separately, you can find out. Get a.
As a workshop item, with the city commission, correct?
Yeah.
Marky, a workshop item with the city commission.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It has to be with all of us.
Okay.
Next year.
In January?
Yeah, because, I know there's just so much going on.
But no problem.
Well, we got a week, and then
You let us know when you're ready. We'll be there.
I think January would be perfect.
Okay.
2 weeks from now.
We'll be more than happy to do it then. Absolutely.
That's just my recommendation.
Yeah, this month is almost gone.
Yeah, and then next
next month you got La Noche de Paz, and you got other events, and
Yeah.
And Christmas.
Yeah. We'll be ready.
that way our public won't say you did it during
In
the
a
holidays
rush.
where everybody's out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and we'll make sure the public attends.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very much appreciate it.
Yeah.
Discussion and possible action on sponsoring the PSJ Special Education Department for the annual Special Education Elementary Christmas Party to be held December 5th, 2024 at the Park Event Center.
Yeah, this is a letter that we received from the PSJ School District as far as on the Special Education Department, seeking for some funding. They're not asking for a particular amount of money, so whatever is the kind of hard schools donors for this particular event.
Okay, and it's an annual thing, and from my understanding, it's all the special education in the district, all three cities.
All,
correct?
all three, yes.
Okay.
Have we sponsored in the past?
No, this will be the first one.
You want me? I'll go ahead and make a motion if we can maybe sponsor $500.
Second, got a motion and a second for $500 sponsorship. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously.
The only thing that I would ask is if we can have, somebody from our IT department maybe go take some pictures.
Oh, yeah, yes.
So that we can also promote,
Good work,
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, we'll put that out tomorrow. Next item, discussion and possible action on sponsoring Noche de Paz event Saturday, December 7th, 2024, San Juan Memorial Park, for the amount of $60,000.
Yeah, this is the item that we typically come before you guys every single year. This is budgeted amount. So we're asking for the 60,000 if it can be.
Because it's already budgeted.
No, this is the actual.
This is budgeted amount that we budgeted.
This is the amount that we do every year.
Yes.
Oh, well, the EDC.
Right.
Okay.
So the EDC will become, right, so the EDC will become as percentage sponsor.
Correct.
and we voted to budget this amount.
Yes.
Right, if we may, discussion, if we can. Because I know that we did cut back on the event itself. So, go ahead. Oh, I thought you were going to say. So do we still need to?
So what the plan is, this money will go into that amount, spent first.
Say it again?
This money will be spent first.
This money will be spent first.
Well, I think it makes sense because this is a promotional event to bring business into the city, so it's more appropriate for the EDC. And if we can save money, even though I represent the EDC board, but if we can save money for the city by using the EDC money, I think that's a much better.
Well, they'll be the representative sponsor. They'll be the main sponsor, the EDC.
And also, we use a lot of this funding for promotional items. Honestly, the city really can do a lot of promotional, but on the EDC, they can't.
Okay. Now, with that being said, I know we have, 2 weeks before the event? So how much promotional are we going to get?
We're going to be hitting the radio station, also the TV stations as well.
Say that again?
We're going to be hitting the radio station and the TV station.
Quick.
3 weeks.
It's like they were going to do, Jonathan was going to work overtime on Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah.
If we need to get something done like that, well, let's get it done.
Yeah, so I'll just rake it back.
I'll make the motion for the 60,000 that we always give to the
I'll go ahead and second it. Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. The next one, we'll now be entering executive session. San Juan Economic Development Corporation will convene an executive session in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, running statutes of codes, and the State Government Code Chapter 551.071, consultation with attorney, and Texas Government Code 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development and negotiations. This time, entertain a motion to enter executive session. Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We now proceed to executive session at 7:36 p.m. Coming out of executive, I guess there's been no action. So since there's no action, I'd like to have a motion for adjourn.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
This meeting is concluded at 8:08 p.m.